According to Galatians chapter 3, verse 26 to 29, does Paul mean there's no more difference between Jew and Gentile in Yeshua HaMashiach?
Well, the context has to be taken into consideration here. The context of that chapter is not about, is a Jew important, is a Gentile important, is a man important, is a woman important, and who is more important? That is not the context of the scripture. The scriptural context is, how do you attain salvation? And when you say, well, how do I receive salvation? He says there's only one way.
Correct.
It's the same way if you're a Jew. It's the same way if you're a Gentile. It's the same way if you're a man, a woman, a child, or older, a Greek or a Roman. There's only one way to attain salvation. So in Galatians 3:26, he's not answering, is a Jewish person different than a Gentile? Of course they're different.
Correct.
In the same way that he would never say that a man is not different than a woman. Of course, a man is different than a woman. So he's clearly not saying this. What he is saying is that in the context of how do you receive salvation, there is no difference. Every Jew has to come to the Messiah the same way that every Gentile has to come to the Messiah. Now, Jews are called in a different, unique destiny than the Gentiles might be called, but we're both called to work together in unity. But there's a uniqueness about the Jewish people. But still, the plan of salvation, the path of salvation, is a single path. There is no other way to the Father except through the Son. And that's what he's answering in the question.
Yes, thank you. And also I remember Pastor Che wants to give a sermon. He's talking about when God said the men alone are no good. They not just establish marriage. It actually is a lot more, a deeper principle about accompanying, work together. Do you mind to give me a little bit highlighting that part of area that you
Yeah, again, in Romans, if you go to Romans 11 again, you would see that there's this continued language that there's a working together expectation.
Correct.
Okay, so I could give you the example of the olive tree. The Jewish people are the natural branches. The Gentile believers become the wild branches that are put into the olive tree, but the Jews are still there.
Correct.
Okay. But then you could look at another example of when it says that Yeshua is one shepherd, but he has two sheep pens.
Correct.
Okay, that's going to be the Jewish believers on one side and the Gentile believers on the other side. We're both called royal priesthood, but they were the first priesthood.
Correct.
We were both called the adopted sons of God, but they're the older brother. They were adopted first. We are both called to rule and reign with the Messiah, for sure. So there's a concept here when we are warned against arrogance and pride, and it is this. The Jewish people have a destiny. It's the same destiny they've always had, to learn about the realities of God and His salvation and tell the world about it. That's their job. But they don't do the job all of the way until they have their partner, the Gentile believers, to come and help them. How do we help them? Well, go back to the remnant. There's a very few small number of Jews who are believers, and it's the Gentiles who help them to become believers, so the Jewish people can do what they were called to do, to be the great evangelists of the world. So the Jews can't get to their destiny without the Gentiles, and the Gentiles can't get to their destiny without the Jewish people. I'm reminded of Romans 11:15 when it talks specifically to the Gentile people, and it says to them, your job is to provoke the Jewish people to jealousy in their God. So we know what the Great Commission is for the Gentiles, just like we know what the Great Commission is for all believers in the Jewish people.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Pastor Chad. 感谢您的收看，盼望今天的访谈对您有帮助。如果您有任何关乎以色列的圣经问题，欢迎您写下来，然后发到我的电子邮件 derek.chang@kkcj.org。我们会将您的问题整理好，然后邀请Chang牧师来回答。如果你想要更多的认识我们的事工，也欢迎您到我们的网站 kkm.network 上面有极其详尽的介绍。如果英文不是您熟悉的语言也没有关系，你可以来拜访国度基业耶路撒冷华人祷告殿的网站 kingdominheritancejerusalem.com， 上面有电子版的中文简介，欢迎您索取下载。再次感谢您收看今天的节目， 圣经有问题，欢迎来找茬。我是张清泉，下回见。